When we think of a trial, it's usually between the plaintiff, the person pursuing legal action, and the defendant, the one defending themselves from the pursuit. Then we have the mediator, the one who makes the determination on who's right or wrong. This ancient system allows an individual to speak their mind openly. Naturally, you may ask, what if the defendant cannot properly defend their position? Like if someone has a disability, or in the case that we're going to talk about today, what if the defendant is dead in the courtroom? This is the story of the Pope bringing a dead man to trial. A man by the name of Formosus. In the year 816 AD, he was born into the Holy Roman Empire. The story begins where he becomes the Cardinal Bishop of Porto. In the Catholic Church, reaching cardinal status is second highest position one can hold within the church. When the papacy became vacant, he ran for the position and won. His papal reign lasted from 891 through 896 AD. Only for a 5-year stint, his papacy ended due to his death in 896. Shortly after, they hold a funeral, close the lid on the casket, and bury him. But here's where things get a little interesting. Introducing the next person in the story, Pope Stephen VI, the predecessor to Pope Formosus. Pope Stephen was strongly tied with the Spulitan political faction, the group in complete opposition to Pope Formosus. Stephen was a man of many ideas, but one particular idea he had one day will forever be remembered in the history books. Stephen was not very fond of Formosus. He thought it was a good idea to bring the former pope to justice. Well, the only fair way to do this is through a trial. Now, there's only one problem with that. The man's been dead for 9 months. So naturally, as every sane person would do, Stephen decides to exhume Formosus' dead, rotting corpse, then proceeds to dress him up in papal robes and have him seated on a throne inside of a church.
I may not have a brain, gentlemen, but I have an idea.
Now they've gotten this poor dead man into the courtroom. Another issue arises. How will he defend himself? So they appoint a deacon to speak on the behalf of the dead pope. Stephen in this trial is the plaintiff. He accuses Formosus with the following: allegedly becoming the bishop of Rome illegally, allegedly violating church canons by holding multiple bishoprics, alleged perjury, and ambition for the papacy. Well, I didn't know it was illegal to have ambition, but okay. Yes, even back then they used the word allegedly. After all, this is a very fair trial that must be taken very seriously. The trial commences, the dead pope is continuing to rot, and the deacon tries to defend him. Since this is a fair trial, despite the silence from Formosus, the corpse was shockingly found guilty on all charges. What a plot twist. What they did next was just completely psychotic and deranged. After he was found guilty, they proceeded to strip the papal vestments off of him and cut 3 of his fingers off for future blessings. Didn't know that we use fingers now for blessings, but the more you know. After the very kind treatment of his decomposing corpse, they finally put him back to rest in a local peasant graveyard. Now, if you think the story ends here, you would be wrong. Since for some reason they had a strange infatuation with exhuming dead people, they decided to dig him up for the second time.
Oh my God.
Only to bring him to this final resting place. And of course, to top off this whole ordeal, they did it with their bare hands. They threw a naked dead pope into the Tiber River. The public was obviously pretty disgusted with Pope Stephen's actions. They chose to throw him in jail, where later he was hung in the jail months after the trial. A subsequent pope reversed the trial's ruling and made the brave decision to make all exhumed corpse trials completely illegal. I don't know how many people were trying to attempt that afterwards, but in my opinion, it might be just a little too late. If you don't want to be dug up out of your grave, you better like and subscribe this instant. You never know, someone may have never fully forgiven you.